What's up, everybody? So, first of all, we came on here a little early. This is going to be a feeling out process of how exactly I want to do this. I'm going to end up getting this on X as well. But this is just the first episode where I just wanted to vent, get some ideas. I know eventually I want to be able to create it into the show the way that I want it. But for right now, I just want to kind of shoot out some ideas to people and have some discussions, especially as the election is coming nearer to us. I'll have more, I would say, more information, and hopefully having people, come on to kind of have discussions, so we can have open discussions, just like I used to have on my old show, and so I want to have those discussions that are a little bit tough. First of all, as we come on here today, the things that I wanted to discuss coming into the day was the 2024 election, the Trump assassination, the Biden step down, those types of things. But some news dropped that I'm sure many of you heard about, and it was the case of Sonia Massey. So Sonia Massey was a lady from Illinois who got shot and killed by a police officer. And so I wanted to give some thoughts on that, because I give a lot of thoughts back when it was 2020. Isn't it funny how every 4 years when it's campaign time, they always want to have something they can throw and stick to the wall? People get shot by the police. A lot of times it's justified. Sometimes it's not justified. If it's not justified, we certainly deserve to call that out. And so George Floyd, I was on the side of saying that I didn't think the guy murdered him. I thought he had and all the evidence looks like the guy drug overdosed while having an increase in heart rate due to being in a situation that he was in, that he put himself in. Nothing, he didn't strangle to death or anything. So the whole knee on the neck is just a procedure of how you held him down. Well, Sonia Massey, for those of you who don't know, Sonia Massey was a 36-year-old, I believe, African-American woman who had a son. Now, here's what happened. So this is not in debate. It was on video footage. They showed up to her house. She was definitely acting weird. I don't know if they're going to find out she was on drugs or not, because it was just weird. She was kind of paranoid. She wanted them to look around, see if they saw anybody. They kind of canvassed the area. They didn't see anybody. They came into her house. She was acting funny. There's water boiling on the stove. My daughter just came home and apparently just crept up in the house somewhere here, right there.
You see me?
What are you doing?
I
didn't know you were here. Okay. But anyways, we're live. That's what happens when you're live. So the lady goes in the kitchen and the cops are talking to her and they're like, hey, you have boiling water on your stove. And so they're like, hey, can you go get that? She walks over, she takes it off the stove and, almost like she's going to throw it on him or something. And so the cops, the one officer says, hey, if you don't put that down, I'm going to shoot you in your face. Okay. Now, then I don't know if she threw some towards him. It landed in front of him. And he shot her in her face and killed her. Now, those are the facts of the case. Those aren't my opinions. That's what happened. Now, I'm not going to say this is justified, even though she had boiling water in her hands, because it's my opinion that the distance was good enough that they didn't have to. There was no need at that moment to be closer to her. So she's acting funny. She's got a pan. You can just create some distance. I don't think it was in such a way that they could have thrown it and had it get to the cops. It seemed like there was enough distance for there. And it does not help a situation when a police officer yells something like, I could shoot you in the face. That's not the answer. Like, if he would not have said that and it happened, where she got ready to throw it and he shot her, I think you would actually have a better argument, because that's not what you don't go threatening people. That's a bad play. And then it just shows a disdain for humanity in a way that is just, I'll shoot you in your head. There should almost be no situation where you yell that. And she was already acting weird, so you don't want to escalate that situation. You want to de-escalate the situation. Now, for people that are going to try to connect it to the George Floyd thing and say, oh, we know it happened because she was a black female, which the media has already said. Cardi B already came out and was talking about it and said the one thing we know for sure is he thought he could get away with it because it was a black female. Well, he didn't. He's got 3 charges of, what are his charges? 3 charges of first-degree murder. And considering the fact he told her he was going to do it and then did it, sounds like he's going to probably lose that. He will be in jail, probably cop a plea or something for a long period of time. In no circumstance was his actions okay. So I wonder, though, how many times this has happened, and now here it is coming out. So I just wanted to speak on that because I think some people, they love to pick sides. Right? They're either always on the police side or always on the social justice side. And I think you got to be objective about it. Sometimes police are in the wrong, and sometimes somebody's being an idiot and plays dumb games, gets dumb prizes. Both of those things can be true. Some other things too. So that's really all I got on the Sonia Massey. But I figured I would put that on here first because I know sometimes people love to race bait. That's kind of the thing. Macy, pick a side, huh?
Sorry, I had a bathroom.
Didn't even know she was here. Doesn't say hi when she shows up. It's the life of a dad. She just shows up whenever. Doesn't tell me. No, I'm thinking I'm here by myself. All right, the next thing is going to be election 2024. So clearly, I guess I'm going to take a step back and do the Trump assassination first, because the Trump assassination is kind of more information on that. So a couple things. One, I read that it was a false flag. It's clearly not a false flag. I see where, there's certain arguments that are made. I looked through them. I just didn't see anything that credible. I mean, I will tell you this. The situation is kind of crazy. To believe that there is a 20-year-old kid who he was in a rifle club, but to climb up onto a building with people yelling at you, telling the police, I would assume you're kind of in a hurry. That part we don't really know for sure. We do see the video of him getting up there. He's kind of in place, and he's looking around a little bit, trying to get keyed in. Everybody's yelling. He knows he's got to shoot somebody that's the presumptive president of the United States, person ahead in the polls. And so you're doing this. You're about to take a life. Usually your heart rate, I would assume, is high. I mean, when I was in my time in the Marine Corps, if you're going to be going and getting into battle, your heart rate's a little different than it is if you're just walking around normally. So you get up there. Some things that I found interesting as I was doing all the research, they found 8 shells. So it sounds like when I was hearing the shooting, it sounded not like he was shooting that many times. It's kind of crazy that he shot 8 times, and yet his first couple hit and killed people. I will show you guys something else that I find is kind of crazy here. This is, let me see if I can, I'm going to pull up a screen. I just want to show you guys, and hopefully it'll show up well on here. Let me, let me show you this. It'll let me share it. All right, this is not the one. Let me try this one right here. And then Let's show this full screen. Here we go. So I find this kind of fascinating. If you look at where the gun is. Now, I understand that this guy got shot with a sniper, but his body, you can't really tell, but it's right here. Okay? They blurred it out. Okay? But he would have been up here facing this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 lines away. Now, maybe when they came up on him and he had been shot, maybe somebody came over and threw the weapon away. But nobody said anything like that. I just find that kind of weird that it's that far away from him. I don't know what that means, but I just found that kind of weird to me. Like he gets shot, the weapon should normally fall like right here. It looks like it has a scope on it. Somebody had told me there was iron sights. That looks like a scope to me. Everyone likes to talk about it. It's an AR-15. That is a style of weapon. The odds of that actually being an AR, it might be, but they haven't released it. But they love to use the term AR and then use assault rifle. But AR is actually a type, an armor light weapon. Here's the other picture that I think is interesting. I don't know if you guys listened, but during when the director of the Secret Service was talking, she had said that actually it was a guy that was in the local police had actually said it, and then she verified it, but was that some guy hoisted another guy up and they saw the shooter. Well, clearly there looks like there's a ladder right there. And you can make the argument that maybe they brought the ladder over, except for this ladder is in older pictures where it's like on this building. So I just find that interesting that they get right up on the ladder here. And based on just the height of it, the idea that somebody's going to hoist somebody up, like if you knew for sure that you were going to be trying to find a shooter, the idea that you would hoist somebody up to see the shooter, like you didn't think that all the way through. What happens if the guy turns around with the gun and shoots you in your face? Like, and you're prying yourself up according to the story? That just doesn't make sense. Like, look, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying what did or didn't happen, but what I'm bringing up are some facts that are just not being answered. I just find that very weird. I find it weird that they came out and said there was no briefing the day before or the morning before for pretty much any, I was in the military, it's a little bit different, but if we're going to do an exercise in the morning, you're always going to have a meeting to talk about the operations for that event. And then you do a debriefing at the end. So you have one in the morning and one in the evening to say kind of how it went. It's been a long time, but I think it's called like a fit report or something like that, sit report. And so it's like your after action items and stuff like that. You're going to discuss that. And you would do that beforehand to let you know the operations, how you're going to communicate, your comm, all that kind of stuff. Like that's very simple. The lady tried to walk back the comment about a sloped roof. That was nonsense. Clearly the snipers were on the sloped roof, so that didn't make any sense. So there's just some questions I thought was weird. I mean, to say that some police officer boosted up another guy and then he saw the shooter, and let me just debunk that story because there's just no way that happened. I mean, to think that this 20-year-old kid climbs up on this roof, people see him, he's nervous, he gets laid down, he gets his face in the scope. Now, remember, they said for about 2 minutes that the Secret Service has eyes on this guy. Now, again, this guy was a person of interest. This guy was considered, let me use the right terminology, but this guy was considered a suspicious by the Secret Service. Now, let me tell you what they said in their own words that their process was. If you find someone who's suspicious, now at first the director got upset because he's like, we had 17,000 people there, and there's going to be suspicious people. And it's hard to tell all the suspicious people who is then a threat. So then the follow-up question was a great question. What was that number? How many people were suspicious? 3. That's it. So they identified 3 people, and one of those 3 people shot the former president of the United States. And so now I'm going to go back to what I was just saying right before that. And think about this. Their process is you watch the person. Once you think they're suspicious, you have to kind of investigate until you find out they're no longer suspicious. And then once you find out they're no longer suspicious, then they're not a threat. That's the procedure. Okay. That was out of that lady's mouth. That was the director of the Secret Service. So follow this with me. I know I'm jumping around. So there's a guy, they find him, they see him riding his bike, they see him with a rangefinder. They know this guy is suspicious. They go, okay, how am I going to figure out if this guy's not a threat? And then somehow he's on a roof with a gun. And somewhere in the middle there, would they just lose track of him? It doesn't even make sense. The whole argument of the lady was like, well, he wasn't a threat yet. And then it's like, well, how do you figure that out? Oh, well, you have to look into him and, you have to find out if he's suspicious. Well, first of all, at that point, if he was suspicious and you can't find him, then you got to hold the president back if that's your sole responsibility of protecting him. It doesn't make any sense to then just go, I guess we lost him. You have to make sure that a suspicious person is not a threat. You only identified 3. You have plenty of people to be able to identify 3 people and then make sure they're not threats, and then you move on with your life. Very simple. I also found it very funny that they went and they checked the areas beforehand. It was very interesting how the stage is done in such a way that you had a clear shot to the president from that building, but you didn't have a shot to where the shooter would have been. That's not how it works typically, because what you would do is first you would go to where the president's going to stand, any area in which he's going to stand. Then you find the direct paths where those, the most likely to where shooters would shoot. You would go to that and check those lines of sight. You wouldn't then put yourself, your own snipers at an vantage point where you couldn't really see one of those. You wouldn't leave yourself blind spots, if that makes sense. And it doesn't seem like it was like when you watch the video, there was trees in that direction. Now, they got him pretty quick in terms of getting the shots off, but I just find it very funny. First of all, the 20-year-old guy, so let's go back one more time. He rides his bike. Somehow he walks over, gets to this ladder. Now, I think the ladder was there. It's on old pictures. It looks like the same ladder in the picture that I showed you. But somehow they're like, oh, there's no ladder. They buoy somebody up. They see the guy. So according to their story, he turns around, aims the gun at the person. The person drops down. He turns. Now, he's not nervous that guy's going to come right back up and shoot some shots at him. He's not concerned about that at all. Instead, he gets down, gets proper sight alignment, and lets 8 rounds off. Maybe. It just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I would add there is, so then it's like, well, what are the other options, right? So that everything I've told you so far, that is all facts. Now, it's my opinion that I don't think the guy turned around with the gun. That doesn't even make sense to me, because I just think, like, if I was going to find never in the military, it's like you gotta appear, you got your gun, you got your weapon. You're never gonna like put your head around a corner like, hey, when everyone's been yelling this guy's got a gun. The crowd can see him. Now, yes, the crowd's back some so they can see more on the roof. But if you already know the guy's got a gun based on what everyone's yelling to you, like you're gonna get up on top of that building, and you're gonna have a gun drawn. You're not just gonna poke your head up. Now maybe you do a little peekaboo, but you're not gonna look up and then be so scared you fell backwards 8 feet off a roof, which is what they said. Like if it's 8 feet up, you should have seen them. It's a slanted roof. Like, I mean, there's just so many stories that are just clearly crap. And I find it interesting that the police were actually in the building that the shooter climbed up on. And again, no one noticed, but then somebody noticed a bike. Then they couldn't find the kid. Like, this was either some other stuff going on here, or it was just the most inept lack of. I mean, we look like the Three Stooges if that's our Secret Service. It's just unreal. Trump's detail had asked for more support. There was other campaign stops. When they got there, they did not ask for more. That was something that actually came out. So, okay. And here's the thing. I know this is going to ruffle some feathers. And luckily I have no live on here right now, so people can maybe message me about this later. But if you had the person that means the most to you, that would be my kids. If I had to protect my kids and I was told they're under attack, someone is going to try to murder them, and I had to go get 5 people, I'm pretty sure if we were going to a public place, if this wasn't about, wake them up in the morning and care, if I had to go somewhere with my kids and have them protected, these are going to be huge men. There's going to be 0 women on that staff, and probably nobody under 6 feet tall. There's a way to protect. I mean, when you look at the videos and you have people hiding, here's the thing. It is not inherent for a woman to jump in front of a armed person. Now, people can say it's not inherent for a man either. Yes and no. I mean, on some level, the reason why men are on this earth today, okay, is because we were able to protect the women and fight off things. And that's why we have got, through evolution, became bigger and stronger and been able to protect. And that's why we're still here on earth. And so those capabilities are inherent to us. It's still nerve-wracking maybe, but it's not the same a guy's reaction to protecting and a girl's reaction to protecting. It's just not the same. Now, I'm not saying protecting just in general, because there's lots of women that can do it. I'm not saying no woman can do it. I'm not saying every guy is great at doing it. I'm saying it's inherent, meaning that the outliers are where the differences are, not in the main. I mean, I can't even imagine a situation where I would come up and if somebody was trying to tackle my daughter, I would be waiting for some 5'3" woman to try to step. Now, there's a handful of them. They're all in the UFC. But again, if I was picking the 5 best people to protect my child in the world, and this is the nominee, the front runner nominee for president, there's no way this person should have 4 out of that 7 people surrounding their car be relatively small framed females. That just doesn't make sense. Like, we have become to a point where we're so happy about diversity. And let me tell you something. Organic diversity is wonderful. Okay. But forced diversity is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't even make any sense. First of all, most of the people that I know that are black don't want to be defined as black. That's not like what they wake up in the morning and look at. They look at themselves as a human being, just like everybody else. I don't look at myself as a white male. I just look at myself as Kenny. So they do the same way. And so they don't want a job because they're black. I mean, that's just such a small segment of society that wants that. That is just obnoxious. When you have 100 good people, the group is going to be diverse. It will be. Okay. If you had 100 of the strongest people, it's going to be less diverse. It's going to be very diverse between colors, and it's not going to be very diverse between girls and guys. If you have the 100 best teachers in the world, the 100 sweetest people in the world, it's not going to be overwhelmingly men. It's just not. Nurturing, it's not going to be men. I'm sorry. That's not saying that no men can be nurturing. I'm not saying some men aren't more nurturing than women. That's just the truth. All right. So on the assassination, I also, just to kind of conclude this thing, and I don't know, but it seems like all of a sudden that story is almost gone now. I mean, the way they've silenced this story, and I'm going to assume that in the next week or so, the story of Sonia Massey is going to get really big. It'll get as big as the media wants it to get. I mean, it's terrible that she passed away. I haven't done the Google search, but I'm sure there's other people that have killed other people, police officers that have shot people and they shouldn't have, and hopefully they're rotting in jail. This guy's in jail, so it seems like at this point the system has worked. So that's that. All right, to the election. For some reason, here's the thing. It always bothered me. And this is the one thing that you'll get out of watching this if you ever watch this. And hopefully I get to a point where it gets chopped up some, and we edit it and try to shrink it up and that kind of stuff. But right now, the situation where when you watch your news, all you're seeing is they're on Republican side and on the Democrat side. They literally have these talking points. They push them out and push them out and push them out. And so that's why when you watch it, you'll hear the way they say it. It's kind of the same way. It's not a different way. It doesn't seem like it actually came from an analysis. It's just like they tell you, and they use like punch words, like it's just big boy time. It's just big boy. And they'll try to push that narrative. Then if it works, they'll use it again. They'll repeat the same lines over and over again. So one of those things is Project 2025, right? I've heard a lot about Project 2025. It's Trump's platform. It's Trump's platform. No, it's not Trump's platform. Trump's platform is not Project 2025. It's just not. And he has what's called Agenda 47. And if you're going to critique Trump, which is fine, you should probably be critiquing Trump on what he actually says. So I'm sure he probably does agree with some things that are in the Project 2025, because Project 2025 is from the Heritage Foundation, which is a semi-far right, conservative, religious angle. I mean, I've read some of it. I mean, I didn't have a problem with much of it. Of what I read. Now, they'll misinterpret a lot of it. I have not read it all, so I'm not saying that I would endorse the document. I've not read it all. I read a couple different kind of paragraphs of it to see what somebody was talking about. And it didn't even say what they said it said. But for Agenda 47, for Trump, he says, here are his topics. He wants to end veteran homelessness. Yeah, I'm cool with that. No welfare for illegal immigrants. I think that's probably pretty important. Revolutionize higher education by shifting the endowments from private universities towards institutions. I think that would be interesting. I'd have to look more into that. Trying to build back Americans' auto work, pledge to people who want to homeschool their kids. I actually think homeschooling is a great decision. People who know my situation know that I have some very personal reasons why I'm egregiously against the Board of Education. I mean, they push an ideology on your kids, and they'll turn their kids against you in every which way they can. And then the kid won't even realize that's what's happening. It's really sad. Trump's got 10 principles for great schools leading to great jobs. America must have the number one lowest cost energy and electricity on earth. Returning medicines back to America, ending Biden's pharmaceutical shortages. Calls for death penalty for human traffickers. If you're caught human trafficking, you get the death penalty. I'm okay with that. Rescuing the American auto industry, I already said that. Rebuilding America's military. I'm probably not on board with that, to be honest with you. We've dumped so much money into that. I would actually prefer us to have a smaller, more refined military and kind of cut. We don't need to be in war with everybody. Protecting students from educational brainwashing, taking on big pharma. I don't necessarily believe he'll do that. He didn't do a good job of that during COVID for sure. Hopefully he will. Just talks about, cutting regulations, ending drug addiction, big reason. So those are some things that he's got on his platform. You can surely check him out if you're a Trump fan or if you hate him and you want to pin some stuff against him, but at least have it be his stuff. Don't bring up a bunch of, Project 2025. It's Trump's wish list. No, it was written by the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is a group of Republicans. It was actually opened last year in April. Notice you didn't hear about it till now. That's typically how they do it, right? They wait for some reason, they misinterpret stuff, and then they try to point out how bad somebody is for it. I don't have a lot of, again, one way or the other on it. I've never even read a bunch of stuff on it. But I know it's like increasing the wall in Mexico. Okay, we should do that. So, not really mad about better immigration reform. All right, so that's the election. Now, Kamala Harris. I think it's funny that one of the biggest arguments against Trump was saying that Trump is against democracy. And Democrats have been using that. Republicans don't want democracy. They're going to end democracies, end democracies. And then they took the guy who won the Democratic nominee and they replaced him with a girl who nobody voted for. She ran for office in 2020. She didn't even make it to the point where you vote. That's how bad her election was. She had like one good argument where she race baited a comment about busing at, because she was a small girl on that bus. And then her campaign died the next day. I mean, people realized real quickly that she didn't have a depth of understanding or knowledge on pretty much anything. She got absolutely destroyed in the debate by Kelsey Gabbard, who was a Democrat at the time, and she just ate her up for trying to she kept people in past their sentencing. She hid evidence that would have freed people because it was giving free labor to the court systems. It was just kind of crazy. She did a bunch of things that were not helpful at all. Kamala did. And people just didn't like her. And so never even got to the opportunity, never even got to the place where they were going to vote. So she got 0 votes. And now she is the Democratic nominee. And we're supposed to believe that somehow she's a great nominee. I mean, and if you don't say she's a great nominee, I've already heard it. And it's funny because someone on my Facebook, I brought up the fact that somebody had said that, they started pointing out race immediately, right? Oh, our black sister, blah, blah, blah. We got to support her. It's like, look, she is a candidate that nobody wanted. So what has she done? Let's look at her record. She got placed to be the czar of the border. She was so bad at one point, she hadn't even been there. After about a year, they were like, hey, the border's doing terrible. And the guy was like, have you even been there? And she's like, we've been there. He's like, have you been there? And she goes, I haven't been to Europe either. What? Like, she's just not smart. And she clearly didn't care about the border. And that's why the border happened like this. She has her ties in Ukraine. And we went to war with Ukraine. We're still in this battle with Ukraine against Russia. She clearly has really no accomplishments under her belt. And, just for factual sense, most people know how she got her start up. If you don't, go ahead and check out Willie Brown. Google it. She She talks a lot about, just this victim mentality. She spent most of her life growing up in Canada. She was from Jamaica. She was from her family was from India and Jamaica. So it's so weird because they used to do this thing where it's like, oh, you're African American, but now you're this, now you're that. It's like, okay. It was fun. It's just, race should be almost irrelevant when it comes to whether we are going to vote for somebody. It really should just be the best candidate. If you like their policies, vote for them. It's just interesting that you got it all turned around, and now it's possible that a woman is not possible. She's running for president now and has never even won a delegate vote. So people pledge their delegates, not people that not their actual vote. They pledged other people's votes into this new person right after they tried to kill Trump. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't know what's going on with Biden. I don't know if this guy's dying or what, and I don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that. It's just weird how the guy disappeared, and then I have to watch his video because I just thought the whole thing was just weird. Didn't come out and say a whole bunch. Heard his voice, and then it was weird. But it's going to be interesting. I actually, to be fair, I thought Kamala gave a pretty good speech, like her first speech. It was at least full of energy. Didn't have a lot of substance, but if she has debates, that'll be fun to watch. So we will see how it goes. Let me think if I got through everything. The Trump assassination attempt, Kamala Harris thoughts, Sonia Massey. Yeah, I think some things that's important about Kamala Harris is, at one point she was, she's always been kind of against the death penalty. She had the chance to have it become law where it was against the law in California, and she did not take that opportunity. I don't know why, if that's how she felt. She was one of the people in the Green New Deal. Let me explain something real quick about why it's important. When some people, when they want illegals to come in the country, some people get blinded and go, wow, they're not able to vote. Well, sometimes they can. And even if they don't vote, if an illegal never came in and voted, the reason why having people that are illegal from other countries that came in, overstayed, whatever the case may be, the reason why it messes things up here from a voting standpoint is because it realigns the census. You have, whether you're on your census, doesn't matter whether you're legal or illegal, it's going to have those numbers. And so now all of a sudden you're getting more representatives for the areas in which those people live. Those areas tend to be Democrat areas. You have more representatives there. So you have more votes. Even if you have more voters, even if some of those people are legal, it just gives you more value when it changes how many votes something's worth. That all comes from the census, and the census is based on population. So even if people aren't voting, it can't change the value of the vote. Just something to think about. I also think it's interesting that Kamala's going to have to do well with young voters. And in 2014, she came out just harsh, saying how stupid people were from the age 18 to 24. They're stupid. They make really bad decisions. I don't necessarily think that's totally false, what she was saying. They're certainly not all stupid, but life experience helps you. But man, that was, I don't know that I would come out and be like, they're stupid and make really bad decisions. I mean, everybody makes some bad decisions. I certainly have. But just something to think about. I would like to have interaction. I need to get some more people on the show. Just wanted to shoot some ideas. Hopefully, I brought up some things to think about that you haven't seen anywhere else. I think the ladder issue, the amount of bullets on the roof compared to the amount of bullets that were shot, I think that's a little bit fishy. Where the rifle ended up landing, the fact that somebody was checked up on as suspicious, but then they never followed through to know, and there was only 3. So 3 people of suspicion, and you just lost one, and that one shot somebody. So, just something to think about. All right. Take care. Have a good night. See y'all next week, and it'll be a little bit more organized, and I'm going to try to figure out more things that want to be discussed and see if I can get some more people on here. All right. Take care.